Okay, so let me start the next segment out by saying congratulations to Shedeur Sanders. Being a fifth round draft pick and still having a job in this league coming up into the last week of August, going into the regular season, that is something to actually be celebrated. Now, I know we are not celebrating right now because the internet is telling us that that man has been bamboozled, has been sabotaged, all these things. But at a certain point, the facts are the facts, the trends are the trends, and we have to step back and understand what is really at stake here. So let's just start with the fifth round draft selection. Every team had the opportunity to draft Shedeur Sanders. The reason they didn't is the reason they didn't. If you want to say he's just not that great of a quarterback, he's got concerns, he's got character concerns. They want to stick it to the dad. They don't like that. They're not going to want all this hoopla around them. Whatever it may be, at the end of the day, the facts are the facts. And you got drafted where you got drafted, right? So the majority of fifth round draft picks come into camp hoping to just do enough to solidify a roster spot. That's really what we're doing. And that's how you measure success as a fifth round draft pick. You're right there really, really close to the undrafted rookies, right? So move past that and that's out of the way. The draft pick's the draft pick. You come to camp, you're going to get an opportunity to show what you can do. But you have to understand you're getting an opportunity to do this within the system of where you rank. Cleveland drafted a quarterback in the third round. They drafted Shedeur in the fifth round. Chances are the quarterback that was drafted in the third round probably going to get more early opportunity than the one drafted in the fifth round. That's not breaking news, or that shouldn't be a news headline. That shouldn't be confusing to anyone that has watched any amount of football or followed the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, any sport for any amount of time, right? These teams at the end of the day are in the business of winning. I can't say that for all of them, so let me clarify that. Here's what we know about the Cleveland Browns and Coach Stefanski. While the history long-term might not be the greatest, right? A lot of teams ain't. One thing's for sure. Stefanski's won Coach of the Year 2 years twice now, right? We all believe that Stefanski's a pretty good coach. I think Andrew Berry is also a pretty serious GM. Like, I don't look at him and think of him as an unserious person. The owner of the Browns, I'm going to be honest, that nigga, I don't really know much about him. I'm not even going to get into that. We will get into the comments that he made, but the football decisions seem to be made, I would think, on the field and at the general manager level. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to that. So after we determined that we do believe Stefanski to, be in the business of winning football games, and we do believe Andrew Berry to be a serious person in the business of building a team to win football games, we have to then extend them the courtesy of saying, you know what? Maybe they seen what all the other NFL teams seen and passed on him as well. But then he came available in the fifth round where maybe, nobody expected him to be available. So the cost, like the risk versus reward, was worth it for them. At this point, it's a project. And I understand Dylan Gabriel was a project too, but this is a very cheap project that we're willing to take. We're going to see what happens. Just because the internet and like Prime's supporters, and I don't know why I say that, like I'm not a Prime supporter. I fucking love Coach Prime. I love Shedeur. I love the Sanders. I'm just, a logical human being. I don't think that, I think there was football issues, which is why he got drafted in the fifth round. I don't think anything else played into it. Maybe, just maybe, what the fuck's happening right now also played into it. But I think for the most part, it was football questions. But anywho's, we have to trust that the Browns had a fucking plan. And I know that there was some formulation of a plan because they started stockpiling quarterbacks, right? because, hey, we know Deshaun's out. Backing him up, we got Joe Flacco. He's 70. Past him, let's go get Kenny Pickett because, maybe we can just piece this thing together. We're going to draft Dylan Gabriel. We drafted Shedeur. Let's go get Tyler Huntley. We have got a plethora of choices to see what we're going to feel comfortable moving forward with. The plan has to change a little bit during training camp when injuries just start to creep in. One, Joe Flacco ain't going to be playing much preseason football, nor does he need to. Again, that clock is just ticking, and there's no reason to just run some dead time on that clock. Get it. Move him out of the way. So really what we're looking at right now is Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, and then we brought in Huntley, right? So we've got like 4 guys that we kind of need to see who is who and what is what. Well, first preseason game comes along. It's an easy decision. We literally got to go with Shedeur because Dylan Gabriel and Kenny Pickett are injured. Shedeur comes out, has a pretty good showing that the world treated like it was a Super Bowl. Literally Nike football doing an ad after a preseason game is crazy. Like, the sensationalism is getting fucking out of control. But whatever, I love a good story just like the next man, right? Goes into the following week, joint practice, injures his oblique, so he's going to be out for the second preseason game, and we get to see Dylan Gabriel for the first time, who I think Dylan Gabriel just looked a little bit more in command of the offense than Shedeur did. It wasn't fair because we didn't kind of get to see them both at the same time, but if we're going apples to apples, I would say, yo, dog, it's 1-1. Kenny Pickett still was nowhere to be found. Tyler Huntley was, Tyler Huntley. He's there, but there's less question marks about what that was going to be, right? So we go into the third and final week, and Dylan Gabriel gets more opportunity in prime situation than prime. I didn't mean to do that. in that situation than Shedeur does. Why did he get that situation? Why did he get those perks of going with the first team and, getting to finish out that 2-minute drive and this and that? Because he's, ahead of him on the depth chart. And that's usually how that's going to work out. Shedeur does get his time in the second half, struggled mightily. I understand that 4 of the 5 offensive linemen that were blocking for Shedeur are now off the team. And I get that it was a tough situation, but you can't, even if you're a Shedeur fan, you can't say you watched those snaps and you thought that Shedeur did an excellent job getting rid of the football or doing things, to mitigate losses. That's a big part of being a quarterback that people don't understand is like, let's not take a bad situation and make it worse. And Shedeur showed he put no confidence in the coaching staff that was going to be the case. Like, I don't know how to describe that for like non-football people or just average. A lot of playing quarterback is risk mitigation. So if your offensive line is not great and maybe the play calling's not the greatest, there was at least 3 plays where he could have thrown the ball away, dumped it off to a receiver on a little safety route here, or just went down, brother. Losing 40-something yards on 5 sacks is crazy. There's no explanation for that other than you just made some bad decisions. Yes, in the bad situation, but you compounded the problem by making bad decisions, right? Here's where I do slightly agree with the people that are saying that Shedeur is being sabotaged. And I'll say this. You got to let him do the 2-minute drive. If Shedeur has magic in him, which we've seen some magical stuff throughout his career in college, you got to give him a chance to show that. Especially if your excuse for not doing that is saying, oh, we wanted to get Tyler Huntley some reps. Because shortly after the game, you released Tyler Huntley. You knew you was getting rid of him anyways. So those were wasted reps that you could have given to Shedeur. Not saying he would have been great in it based on what we've seen, but I do understand that questioning of why did we do that? But to me, I move past that when I get to like where we're at today. The Oakland Raiders, I would imagine called, so quarterback goes down. Oakland Raiders pick up the phone and they call who? Cleveland, because, hey, y'all got a bunch of them. And I would imagine that they may have offered their 5th round pick for maybe another pick. If you don't believe Shedeur is that dude, which it would lead me to believe that you don't really believe in him like that because you did take him out of that 2-minute situation. And if you had any belief, you would want to see how he's going to act in this situation. So that told me it's not looking good. I actually was still on the fence saying that they might cut my boy. But Oakland Raiders call and they say, hey, we just had a quarterback go down. Heard y'all got a bunch of them. What can we do? I'm guessing that at some point Shedeur's name came out from the Browns. And Oakland was probably like, nah, what about Kenny Pickett though? And here's the thing. To me, that's way more damning than the preseason game. All the sabotage this, the owner didn't want it. All of that shit can go out the window. A different team probably had the opportunity to say, hey, we seen what he did in the first preseason game. We're just looking kind of for a backup anyways. Is Shedeur available? Or you would have offered Shedeur? And they was like, nah, but we want Kenny Pickett. Because no disrespect to Kenny Pickett, but we know who Kenny Pickett is already. A third-party team believes that Kenny Pickett is also a better quarterback than Shedeur. And at this point, it's even as a project because they just wanted you for the backup, but you could be a project going forward. Oakland was like, nah, we don't see it either. I still keep calling them Oakland. The Raiders was like, they've been in Vegas forever. They was like, nah, we don't see it neither. I think that's the general consensus among football people in the NFL is, hey, we just don't think he's got what it takes from a football standpoint. Or we think he's borderline, like he's on the fringe when it comes to a football player. And when you're borderline talent-wise, you have got to literally have everything fall in your favor. So when you mix that Shedeur Sanders may be borderline talent-wise, and then you mix in the noise and the dealing with the father and the dealing with the fans and all this other stuff, especially if you're just in the business of trying to win football games, I fully understand why you might want to just stay away from that situation. It's no disrespect to Prime. It's no disrespect to Shedeur. None of the Sanders. I hope these dudes have great success. What Prime has done for these young, these young black men out here, for even myself, I follow Prime on social media. I get great messages from Prime weekly, like that make me think like, yeah, we can do shit better. I like them. But I think in the NFL, we talking about winning football games. And that's not the same conversation. And once again, we should be able to have nuance to say, I like these dudes, but that don't mean I want to put my football life on the line for that. Because 32 teams have pretty much said, it just ain't worth it.